Hello! In my most recent video, the one on Pyro MC's new C6, I had a small segment on Melt, and specifically why it doesn't really work. And while what I said in that video is still true, I don't want to give off the wrong impression. Melt isn't really something PMC can do if you're trying to utilize C6. The Pyro from their normal and charge attacks is too much when combined with the rest of their kit. But the rest of his kit works perfectly fine with Melt, particularly in a team structure like this. Quick swap, double Pyro, double Cryo. Pyro MC's on-field application is too strong to keep up with any one or even two Cryo units, but if you use Quick Swap to stagger that application and reapply Cryo when you need it, you can still melt most of their damage. Unfortunately, I do have to say, Citlali is nearly irreplaceable here. I've talked in the past, she's a ridiculous support, and the fact that she brings damage percent, res shred, and cryo application in one slot is kind of what makes these teams work. You can use other units, but you're not going to see the same results. These other two slots are a little more flexible, but Bennett and Rosaria are my preferences. Now before I get into team variations, I do just want to show the sort of base rotation. While other units have different ways of buffing and different methods of applying cryo, this lays out the idea of what the team wants to do. And something you might notice, even though this is a DPS PMC team, I'm running Fav. Realistically, you could probably go Fav Rosaria and then give PMC a better weapon, but this is the version that I found plays the best and most consistently meets his energy requirements. But it's a fairly flexible archetype. A lot of Quick Swap is adjusting your rotation for what you need in the moment. So if you can make Fav Rosaria or even like Fav Bennett work, then all the power to you. This is just what I found I was comfy with. Other gear, pretty simple. Codex Traveler, Emblem Rosaria, Noblesse Benny, and Scroll Citlali. Start with Benny's Burst, go to Citlali, get your buffs and overtake with Cryo. Only do your hold skill on Traveler, swap to your second Cryo source and do whatever they need to do, then melt your Burst. Then you can get a few normal attacks at the end if you want, melt Rosaria's skill, and then you're pretty much ready to do it again. As you can see, it's kind of a tight setup. There's some weird standing around you have to do while waiting for application or waiting for Traveler to get Bennett's burst buff, but it's focused around using Citlali and Rosaria's front-loaded cryo application to guarantee that PMC gets melts on his hold skill and burst. And there is not much room to normal attack here. This rotation is sort of why I ended up using PMC on Fav. He doesn't catch many particles when using this quick swappy style, and of course he's not using scroll, so his ER needs can get pretty high, so Fav was the best way I found to alleviate his and the rest of the team's needs. They all get some extra particles, and he gets the big sub-stat. Alright, well, I missed the melt there, but I still killed him. And it's kind of funny that the Ruined Drake's cryo resistance is consistently the one that's getting boosted, as it's based on what element deals the most damage to him. Might have something to do with my weapon and my talent levels as compared to Traveler, but you can see even without reacting, Rosaria is getting a pretty high amount of damage in this team. So what are some other options? I prefer Bennett because he lets Citlali trigger a melt and give a pyro damage bonus, but of course, you can use Eon-san. Her buff applies immediately to the on-fielder, so as long as you have a cryo aura, PMC can burst right away. It's a lower damage version that can be a little clunky to play, but it still works, so I figured I should mention it. If you don't mind, I'm gonna go back to using Bennett. It's Rosaria's slot that's a lot more flexible. The closest comparison you can make is Kaya, of course. He has lower uptime in single target, and he trades Rosaria's circle impact for having to stand next to the enemy impact. But as a trade-off, his higher cryo application, especially with C6, allow for a little more on-fielding from PMC. Still solidly a quick swap team. Your other options kind of just get worse from here, if I'm being honest. Layla can function with a slightly altered rotation, but her cryo application is a little slow and can have trouble keeping up. And while her shield is strong, the inclusion of Citlali makes it a lot less notable. Charlotte is also in that technically functional category. Her front-loaded application can be nice to get a few melted charge and normal attacks, but she has high energy needs, her hold skill takes a very long time, and her healing isn't all that useful. So I would recommend Kaya over her. The last option I'd really consider is Diona. She of course has her 200 EM buff at C6. Her burst does a little bit of off-field cryo. I still would probably go for either Kaya or Rosaria, but Diona can help you see some big numbers. This is also a team in which I would recommend her tap skill over her hold skill, given that she doesn't really need the shield with Seat Lolly, and the tap skill lets you apply cryo more when you want. And the last unit to use in this slot that she's not my favorite to play with, but she is my favorite conceptually, Ayaka. And this is actually going to be the team where Traveler gets a bigger weapon, not because he's doing more damage, but just because Ayaka's energy needs are so much worse, which is part of why she's not my favorite to play with. Having 2 high-cost burst units can kind of put a weight on the team, and Ayaka slows down the rotation a tad with her 20-second cooldown burst. But if you can make it work, it can be kind of strong. I just think it's conceptually so cool, where Pyro Traveler starts out forward melting, but if you on-field him, Ayaka can start getting the melts. Oh jeez. See, all I can do some damage. I always forget about that. Maybe not the most damage out of Pyro Traveler himself, but because your damage is coming from 2 units who both have front-loaded damage in their bursts, you get a cool dual carry dynamic going on. Weirdly fun. I would recommend it if you have her. And I also like this because it's a win for Emblem Ayaka. I threw away all my Blizzard Destroyer pieces, so Emblem Ayaka is all I can do anymore. But it's fine because all of her cool teams use Emblem. So that's all I've got for you today. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you can get some big melts out of your Traveler. If you want to show your support, watching was more than enough, but you can also leave a like, drop any questions you may have in the comments, and I hope y'all have a lovely day.